Trust for sure. If I catch you in a lie, then it's hard to build that trust back up. They fabricate the truth, especially dealing with 16, 17-year-old, 18-year-old kids. If you tell me the truth, if you take accountability, you have my trust.
Even if you're the worst player on your team, if your coach likes you, he's going to put you on the pitch. What's your ingredients for getting liked by the coach?
Being coachable, I think, is the biggest one. No ego. And that's hard for young guys. Change your attitude. Work hard. Once I did that, back in the starting 11. It's less about the game than what you think. It's 1,000% more about the people. You always ask about the family. You know, how do you treat your mom? How do you treat your dad?
I think there's a big stereotype in the US that high school soccer is like not good. It's like a C grade. How do you feel about that stigma?
To some point, they're not wrong. You do have programs where it's a science teacher coaching the team. But for where we're at, you know, and especially a school like Columbus, our job is to prepare them for that next level. Probably a week after we won, group of 5 juniors, 6 a.m., and they're on the gym, working out. That's like, gives me goosebumps.
So Cam, what do you think it takes to be a successful high school soccer player?
I mean, I think it takes a lot. Just, you know, being a student athlete in general. You know, one of the things that I look for is in the classroom, for sure, behavior, attitude. But, you know, me personally, I check their grades, you know, every week, every 2 weeks. And for me, I'm a big believer if you're not, you know, successful in the classroom, then you won't be successful on the field, or, you know, it translates over. So, but I mean, the biggest factor for sure is attitude and just, you know, being coachable. But again, I think that's anywhere in college and pro, wherever you end up, you know, if you're a team player type of attitude, then you'll be successful.
So talk us through the season that you just had, because you just came off the back of an amazing high school season. How, if someone asked you like, oh, how did the season go? Like, what's your answer?
Surreal. Surreal. No, it was, like we were talking about before, it was a roller coaster, man. It started off, you know, real high, and then, you know, kind of went static a little bit. Went through some, I guess, internal issues, you know, with certain players, and you know, once we found our core group of guys, we hit a roadblock late in the season, and you know, we kind of had an in-house team meeting, and literally after that, it was like a completely different team. And yeah, I mean, it was just game by game. They got closer together, and then we ended up winning it all.
Yeah, right. So what do you think is the recipe for success for building that team? Like, why do you think that this year was different to other years?
I mean, you know, I heard this from one of the coaches I worked for. It takes 5 years to build a program, you know. And in my head back then, I was a little younger, and it was like, yeah, right, you know. But it's true. Why? Why does it take 5 years? I just think, you know, the transition from a coach who was previously there, who had a culture built for such a long period of time, and then you come in with new ideas, you know, kind of a new set of rules and a new set of style of play that, you know, maybe there aren't some players that played with him as much, and then to me, I'm not going to look at them the same, you know, and then the attitude thing and all that. So it took 5 years. I would say really 4. You know, we were talking about Ricky and his class. That class for me, for sure, was one that had a chance of winning. I just think we ran out of luck, you know. I think winning a championship involves a little bit of luck. But, yeah, I think it's more off the field, man, for me. It's more off the field.
So when you say off the field, because we talk about this a lot in terms of, like, attitude and being a good person first and foremost before you're a good footballer. But, like, you're obviously a successful high school coach. What do you look for in a player, or what do you like about players in your team that you're like, okay, I trust that kid, I like him, I'm going to put him on the pitch?
Yeah, you said the biggest one, trust for sure. There's certain things, especially dealing with, you know, 16, 17-year-old, 18-year-old kids, where, you know, they fabricate the truth. And you know, I wasn't the best kid, you know. I made up lies. I got caught in my own lies, you know. So for me, I always tell them, I'm like, you know, if you tell me the truth, if you take accountability, that's a big one. If you take accountability, you have my trust. But if I catch you in a lie, then it's hard to build that trust back up. But I think accountability and trust is 1,000% the biggest.
And how do you get that into the players when they're 16, 17? Like, how do you communicate to them about this, that you need to trust them? Like, what's your message to build a good culture?
No, I mean, it's no message. It's kind of like catching them in the act, or like them like testing me, you know? And then when players see that I stay on my word, or we stay on our word, where, you know, for instance, okay, if you show up late to practice, you don't play or you don't start, you know, and then you're not coming in until the second half at least. So what that does is it gives other kids opportunity. So once they see that we actually do that, then it's like, okay.
What would be an example of a player that would be lying about something? Like, I'm thinking about, like, okay, maybe going out drinking and missing training session, or maybe turning up late to something, or not doing your homework. Like, what are some examples of things you have to deal with?
Yeah, I mean, let me think. Like something like forgetting cleats, like, which is crazy to me to begin with, but
It happens.
It has happened. I look more for problem solving. There's a solution to every problem. I'm a big believer in that. So, okay, you forgot your cleats, no big deal. Or forgetting your practice shorts, forgetting your practice shirt, no big deal. Maybe there's a JV player on campus. Maybe there's a teammate. Maybe you could go to Los. Like, there's so many other solutions, and that's my whole thing with them, is to find a solution to your problem without me having to guide you. Because again, coaching, that's how it is. You know, you guide them in practice and all that, but then when it comes down to the game, they're on their own.
Would you say that your job is more tactical, technical coaching, or more managing a squad?
Managing. 1,000%. At least these last 2 years, that's how it's been. You know, now this year we've had the most talented coaching staff we've had. You know, luckily, so grateful for that. But it's been managing. That's all. It's
interesting because I think a lot of players that I speak to think about, well, a lot of players in general, they think about, like, okay, this is a really good manager, this is a really good coach because he's coached at this level, or he does these drills, or blah blah blah. But in my opinion, the biggest part of being a good coach is how you manage a squad, how you manage personalities, manage egos, how you give feedback, how you motivate players. Where did you learn how to deal with that side of the game?
You know, it's funny. I always think about that. I think I've learned that in all my life experiences. You know, whatever job that may be, or, you know, even my parents, my dad, or whoever. But I've always been a very observant person. So from the leaders that I've, you know, observed, that's kind of where I've learned it from. You know, I'm sure everybody has had a boss that they didn't like, you know, but then there's the one boss or the one manager that you've had that, man, they do a really good job. Like, I respect this person, and it's the way that they deal with conflict, or the way, you know, okay, say there's a busy kitchen, the manager rolls up his sleeves and gets to washing dishes. Like, you got to respect that, you know? So I think it was learning just from all mentors and bosses and leaders I've had in my past life, you know.
What do you think is something that that players in general don't really think about their coach? And this, I don't know if the question's clear, but I did a podcast recently with someone in New York. He was like a private trainer, like one-on-one coach, and he was like, I wish the players knew how much I cared about them. And I think a lot of players don't actually appreciate how much their coach cares, and like the things they're thinking about, like session planning, video analysis, managing the ego of a player, how to give feedback also to the parent, because it's not just the player, it's the parent that you're dealing with. Like, do you think that players neglect how much their coaches care?
Some, but again, they're young. They're young, you know. I don't think they're going to realize that until later on. Maybe some realize it now. Some might realize it 2 years, maybe a year from now. But, you know, for me as well, you know, I noticed that maybe 5 years, 6 years down the line. but I think it's real hard for them to understand that. But you know, I constantly say it all the time in one-on-one conversations, or even in the locker room, something like that. I was like, you guys have no idea how much we care, you know. But I believe this year and last, the players really bought in and saw, you know, okay, look, you know, they care.
How do you manage dealing with children? Because I'm thinking, like, in senior football, in college or in adult football, if someone forgets their shorts, you just be like, look, you're an idiot, like, you're out maybe. Or you could be a bit more direct. But with a 16, 17-year-old, you don't know what's going on at home, what's going on with the parents, what's
Correct.
going on with the boyfriend, girlfriend. So you have to be quite gentle with how you're, like, how have you learned how to manage that age group successfully?
Yeah, at the beginning, you know, it's funny you say that. At the beginning, I was kind of more, I would say, hard on them, you know, I would get really pissed off, honestly, and to the point where it's like, go home. And I started to realize it's not working, you know. I need to take a step back and think about what you just said. You know, some have split homes, some, you know, might have been with grandma. I don't know. So, like I said, as long as they come up with a solution to the problem. I've had kids before come to me like an hour before practice, at least, you know, which is fine. Hey, coach, I forgot my cleats. Do you have any in your office? I'll let them use a pair of cleats I have, you know. I don't mind. But it's finding that solution rather than just sitting there, what should I do, coach? Or what should I do? And asking somebody else. So, but yeah, I mean, in some cases, you know, we all have our good and bad days. I'll give an example, but I had a kid this year that his grades were not good, and I got emails from coach or from teachers from, you know, multiple classes, and gave him a warning and said, hey, look, you need to bring them up. If they're not up by next week, you're not going to be able to practice, which means you won't be able to play. All right, yeah. So he comes to practice one day. I checked his grades right before practice, and I see him walking up, and I would go to the library. And he's like, no buts, go to the library. Sat out that practice. And what happened the next day? Check his grades. They're all good. So I'm like, but that was a type of kid that I needed to do that.
So it's different. It's
different for every kid. Yeah. But guess what? Later on in the state final, he scores the game-winning goal. So it's like,
it's how to motivate players, how to manage different personalities, and
correct. Like some kids, you know, react better to that rather than, come on, let's go. Like, you know, you have to be a little more direct and finding that out, but it takes time, you know.
So how did you get into coaching?
Man, funny, it kind of started, you know, as a side thing, you know. I actually moved back to Miami from Fort Myers. I went to school in FGCU, and I was about to move to New York, and I get a job request from Coral Reef Senior High School, big school down south. They needed a coach. It was very last minute, and okay, I'll try it, you know. And we had 2 really, really successful seasons, and then from there got an opportunity at Gulliver. That's, you know, me and Fede know each other like that, and yeah, at Gulliver, man, it was a whole different beast because, you know, it's a whole program. It's kids from, you know, 5 years old all the way to high school. There's a club program, you know, after school stuff. So it was really learning how to help run a program. And I wasn't a head coach, I was an assistant, you know, but I got to learn from somebody who played in the Premier League and you know, met other coaches through that. And I you know, I was way behind the ball in coaching in that sense. So I learned over there, and then it just kind of kept going, you know, and then I found a way how to, you know, I guess create a career in the space, and why not? I mean, it's something I love.
So you just kind of got into coaching, kind of like, I don't want to say randomly, but you just kind of got into coaching and then you kind of stuck with it. Has there been any point where you were like, I'm not sure if this is for me, or have you always kind of built on it?
No, I mean, I at the time, I'm, you know, I love it. I love what I do. But like how we were talking about, I see it more as like managing a team, like in any business, anything you do. If you want to build a company, you want to start a small business, you have to learn how to manage people, manage a team.
What's your biggest piece of advice for managing people?
To learn their different personalities and to listen. That's the biggest one is I think is to listen. A lot of the times, I think where some people, not necessarily coaches, but everybody get it wrong is where it's my way or the highway type of thing, like you have to do it this way. I love having my coaching staff bring ideas and let's do it. Or, I could go to them, hey, let's do this today. And no problem. And then also listening to the players, there's some days where I ask them, what do you guys want to do? How do you feel? Like, or before a game, do you feel all right today? Whatever, but listening to people.
I think it's a fine line between listening and understanding the players, but also keeping their respect that you can take decisions. Because I've definitely made mistakes in the past where I asked way too many questions and gave them too much freedom, and it felt like the players could kind of dictate what the coach wanted.
Taking advantage
of you, like, okay, he's given us complete freedom, so let's just do this and let's go with it. Rather than being like, no, guys, this is what we're doing today and I want it. So it's an interesting relationship between like understanding, listening to the player. Okay, what do you need? What do you feel like? How can we take a decision here? But at the same time being like, this is what we're going to do. And how do you balance giving the players freedom, but also being like, I'm the coach?
Yeah, no, I mean, it took 5 years, and that was part of my goal, honestly, because I have seen both sides, and I've seen what works and what doesn't. And also, I'm an alumni of Columbus. I went to school there, so for me, this was like one of the biggest accomplishments of my life, honestly, so far. Was to bring back a state title to the school I went to, and it's not like they've won a bunch. They've won one time before. So, but one of the biggest factors was I wanted to create this balance where, okay, I guess they have fun. They're having fun, but also the respect is there. And we're going to work, we're going to get to work. We're not going to take shortcuts, but we're going to have fun while doing it. And I believe now that's there. The culture's set in stone. So like whoever is coming in, like say an MLS next guy who might not be playing high school decides, okay, I want to try it out. They know what they're getting into right away. So
how would you say the culture that you've built, what are like the foundations or the pillars for the culture?
I'd say like respect, big one, trust, unity, family, like it's just very tightly knit.
But what does that mean? Like if you had to describe your perfect player in terms of off the pitch, how they are as a person, describe to me that player, what he's like, what his personality is like.
Hardworking, respectful, trustworthy, like just like anybody you want, like you have a daughter, you want her to date like a respectful, trustworthy guy, right? So I would say those are the biggest ones.
So for a player listening to this that's thinking, I'm having a trouble getting in the starting 11, I don't know if my coach likes me, because I preach a lot, like you need to be liked by your coach. Even if you're the worst player in your team, if your coach likes you, he's going to put you on the pitch. In your experience, you're obviously a coach. What's your ingredients for getting liked by the coach? Like if there's a player listening to this that's thinking, I wonder how I get my coach to like me, how does it happen?
Be coachable and work hard. For me, that's and have a good attitude. Those are the I think for me the three biggest aspects of a young player, because you see it a lot of the times where maybe their teammate might make a mistake and they throw their hands up. I hate that. Just put your head down, run back, cover for your player, and do whatever the coach is asking for. If the coach is you're a winger and the coach is saying take it down the line and cross, but you don't want to do that, then they're probably going to take you out. Yeah, because in that point in the game, we might see something that is exposed and we want to expose it. But if you're not listening, then okay, next player. Next player. So for me, it's, being coachable, I think is the biggest one. No ego, and that's hard for young guys. But to not have an ego or put the ego to the side.
How do you manage this? Having a player has a big ego, Because for some players, I argue that for some players, like a striker, you need an ego, you need some form of confidence.
Of course,
right?
yeah.
But for other players, well, even for like if you have too big of an ego, it's difficult because listen, you're not ready to play Division 1 yet. You could be, but you're not ready. For example, that's the conversation I have with a lot of players. Or like, listen, you know, for example, the one time like we lose a game and the player like reposts the starting 11, and I'm like, what is going on? Like, I would be embarrassed to, you know, maybe that's not ego, but players having a big ego and you see it's affecting their game. How do you manage this?
I mean, I have a lot of conversations with the guys, you know, and one-on-one, whatever it may be, and just like I said, ask questions and kind of get to see the feeling of it. And then, you know, one of the biggest things is, okay, you know, if maybe we're playing an opponent where I might not need that kid, I'll bench him. And then if we win, you know, hey, we could do this without you, you know. And then it's kind of a wake-up call. For most, it will be a wake-up call quickly. But then, I mean, just talking to them too, you know.
Do you have individual meetings with your players?
A lot. A lot. I'll pull them out of class. You know, we'll just have a chat, you know, whatever it may be.
How important is that, having a relationship with your players?
I think it's huge. I think a lot of coaches shy away from that, you know. And also, I mean, in some aspects, you know, you're dealing with 40, 50, 60 kids. It's hard to do that. But, you know, we're in my situation where we're at a school, you know, all day, it's easy to pull a kid out of class for 10 minutes and have a conversation real quick. But I think 1,000%, it's huge.
What's your biggest piece of advice or something that you've learned from a coach's perspective, how to build a relationship with your players?
I mean, attitude. That was one thing I clearly remember when I was their age. There was an example where I was out of the starting 11, you know, for the first time in whatever amount of years, and it kept happening. And I had, luckily, an assistant coach that I'm very good friends with the family now, but he came up to me and literally just said, just change your attitude. Work hard, change your attitude. And once I did that, he was right. Back in the starting 11, you know. But to have that, if I never had that conversation with that coach, who knows what would have happened, you know? So, but for sure, that attitude thing, you see it a lot.
And what about you as a coach? How do you develop a relationship with your players?
I think it's a trust thing, you know. I try my best to rotate them in, or, you know, like I said, I gave that example of if a player's late and maybe this one kid is fighting for minutes, there you go. There are your minutes. And then once they see that, it's like, okay, I trust him, you know. But little things like that, you know, standing on your word, you know. I think that's the biggest one, because a lot of these kids have been, you know, lied to. It's sad to say. And I was one of them, you know, growing up down here. So it's being honest too, you know, being honest, like you said, like having those conversations about their next level where you see them. I'm not going to be like, yeah, you're going to go play at Duke. Like, let's be honest, that's extremely hard now. So I'll be extremely honest with them where I see them. And when they get that feedback, you know, they can either run with it or, you know.
And how, because I think there's a big stereotype in the US that like high school soccer is like not good. It's like a C grade. You have obviously MLS Next, DCNL, and then high school is kind of like put to the side. How do you feel about that stigma?
Yeah, it's funny. I talk about that all the time. You know, to some point, they're not wrong. People are not wrong, because you do have programs where it's a science teacher coaching the team. You know, I get it. But for where we're at, you know, and especially a school like Columbus, where athletics right now is on top, you know, we just had the Heisman Trophy winner. We have
I didn't know that.
Yeah, Fernando Mendoza
was
a graduate. The Boozer brothers are probably gonna, you know, be NBA players. So, you know, athletically, we're on top right now. So for a program like ours, it's not like we're hurting them in any way. You know, our job is to prepare them for that next level, which in most cases is college, university. So I always have this conversation with ex-players that, you know, come back and visit, whatever it may be. And I'll say, what prepared you more for where you're at now? And I said, my time with you guys.
Why?
the program we run, checking their grades, that's realistic. In college, you have to keep up a certain GPA.
So what you're saying is high school soccer prepares you better for the next in your life than club because you've got more responsibility?
I wouldn't say all high schools,
Okay,
but I would say the high schools that run a good program, I think.
So what's the difference between, because someone might be listening and be like, hang on a minute, there's different types of high schools, or there's like, because like it's interesting because I feel like the high school system is so different everywhere. Like
it is.
I went to college in North Carolina and I would go watch games and it would be on the worst pitch and it would have like a science teacher as the coach. And then I'd go to I've been to watch one of your games. I'm like level, like amazing turf, obviously good coaching staff, good level of player, get the ball down and play. And I'm like, how is these guys are in the same league or they're not? Like how would you explain to someone the high school soccer?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's like tiers. Like, I mean, our school is a private Catholic school, and then like someone like where Fed is from, like Gulliver, it's a private school as well. Where, I mean, yeah, we have more means where our weight room is, top class, rather than, you have a public school where, okay, you have your science teacher coaching, you have maybe 10 balls and a bag of cones. But that's how I started, at that first school was, here's a bag of balls, here's some cones, good luck.
But I still think that can prepare you really well for soccer. Maybe not technically, but in terms of like the life skills. Like what would you say your players learn life skills with you?
Yeah, it's those little things, showing up on time. That to me is the biggest one. Like there's no excuse. I mean, we have a kid that takes the public bus every day and shows up on time. So like for me, something that's simple, wearing the right practice gear, wearing the right uniform, not forgetting your cleats, grades, being respectful in class. That to me is like the biggest like slap in the face is if I get an email from a teacher saying that a kid's being disrespectful. Like I really do not like that because we're all people, like show respect to your peers, your coaches, your teammates, everybody, and that to me is what builds a good team at the end of the day, respecting each other, respecting the coaches,
What do you think makes, if I'm playing in high school and I want to play in college soccer, what I want to get an offer to go play Division 1, 2, 3. What piece of advice do you give me? Like I'm playing high school soccer, I'm competing against MLS Next, ECNL kids, international kids, transfer kids. How do I get noticed?
I mean, like what we said, connections always help for sure. But right now I see more of a pathway, and we spoke about this, a year ago, where, if you're coming out of high school, and even now I see it in the MLS Next area, is like the D1 level is getting more and more difficult to reach just because of the transfer portal and international students. So, but if I feel like if they listen and they take our advice, okay, maybe just go to a JUCO for a year, go to NAIA for a year, D3,
but
D2.
Do you struggle with that because your kids are all very academic, or they come from a good high school?
No, yes and no. I just feel like it's the right fit. Some want
for soccer.
Yeah. Some want to stay home, and then some also, might see a D3 program and be like the ego, where it's like I'm better than this. You might be, but
for your first
year, just sacrifice a little bit, And we've seen, kids take that path and be very successful. And then we've seen some where they, might take a gap year and play for, Miami FC Academy or even Inter Miami Academy, and then go on to a D1 school. But again, it's time. Yeah, it takes time. Don't expect right out of high school, even in all those ECNL, MLS Next, all that stuff, to get a D1 offer to a great school. It can happen. Don't get me wrong, but it's very difficult now.
So how do you, with your players, how do you manage getting them knowing what they need to do to get to college? Because obviously, I'm assuming that you're saying, you need to go to camps, you need to reach out to coaches, you need to do this, but maybe the players are telling you, yeah, but coach, I've got soccer, I've got school. Like, you're obviously the coach, so you don't have a lot of time to do that side of things. So, like, how do you get your players educated that they need to do what they need to do to go to college?
Yeah, so after every season, I'm actually doing this right now, but I hold, player evaluations with every single kid, from JV all the way to varsity. And we just have a conversation, about the year and how they do personally, team wise, whatever it may be. And then, usually their junior year or sophomore year going into junior year, you start bringing up, the recruiting part, okay? And just give them advice, create a list of schools, which ones are attractive to you, which ones can you get in, GPA wise, and then kind of just start there, and then okay, let's get a video together. Once they get the video together, they usually come to me or Marcelo or whoever and show us a video. Okay, great, perfect. Now let's start emailing, whatever. Or if you get letter from a camp and you want to go, by all means go. So, I mean, like Ricky got seen at that camp. Now he's playing over there. So it's just educating them. And then also the families, the families trusting us. I think that's huge as well. But, right now we got a group of guys going to Jeff Cup up in, Virginia. So that's a great opportunity as well. So
Because they play for Strikers
FC,
or Miami FC.
So now they have, the list of coaches all right there. All of them all of them are getting their emails together. And then we just had, through personal connections as well, we had 2 kids go out to Miami-Dade and practice with Miami-Dade. So we're working every, angle we can. And again, like I said, we care for them.
Because I feel like I talk to a lot of players who are 16, 17 and they say, and I say, how many schools have you reached out? I haven't. And I say, why? What are the common excuses or the things that you get why players aren't proactive? What do you think is the issue that players don't take accountability and start?
It's funny because I see this a lot, and I think it's because maybe the culture, we and especially where we're at, where we have a very successful American football program, basketball program, where you see these coaches from all over the country in the hallways all day. It's not like that for us. Like, let's be honest, it's not. So I think in their minds, they might think, oh, they're going to come to me. But we try and educate them like, you can't wait. You have to go out. You have to kind of sell yourself, and in order to get as many, I believe, looks as possible. I had one kid that, man, he emailed over, 300 schools, but he got a really good shot at a really good D2 school, got a scholarship,
What was different about him to the other ones?
Like he took the time. He sat down. He emailed a bunch of coaches.
Because I don't know whether the problem is that the players aren't educated enough, or if it's because they're
priority
just lazy.
too. I think it's priority. Yeah, I think it's laziness. I think it's priority, especially when you get to your senior year of high school. There's a lot of other things going on. There's parties. There's a prom. There's whatever it may be. But yeah, I think
I think a big part of it is the parents too, and it's an interesting conversation because it's a fine line between the parents getting involved and taking ownership, and the parents kind of being like, "Look, this is your college process, you do it." And I think, from my experience, the players that have the best offers are the ones where the parents are like on the kid, like you need to be doing this, because they understand the value and of going to college and playing college soccer and what you need to do, and it's like maybe some players who they're first generation students, their parents didn't go to college. And it's like, how do you educate the parents too? Because a lot of the parents will get to senior year and be like, oh, actually, I think he wants to go and play college next year. I'm like, you should have done this 2 years ago. And it's like, but how do the parents know? Do you educate the parents?
Yeah. I mean, every year I feel like we've held something where it's, a college night or something like that, where we have a presentation and we educate the parents and the kids. And also, I mean, sending out emails to the parents with all that information. Now, if they check their email, that's not up to me.
Yeah.
But the information's there. But then again, it just, I mean, it comes down to, like being on them. But at the same time, I've seen some families where it's like, it's his decision, which I agree with, it is. And if the kid stays on top of it, we will see, some results. If not, then it might be too late.
How involved are the parents in your squad? Because I like the players that we work with are usually like over 18, so I try and kind of keep them to a side. But I
Yeah.
guess in school it's a little bit different.
No, I mean, yes and no. Obviously, the parents need to be involved. But one of my things is, your son is becoming a young man, so any communication about missing practice, about missing, a game or something like that, has to come from them rather than the parent. And then say when we travel, we stay in a separate hotel, and the parents stay wherever they need to stay. But it's a lot of responsibility on the young man, but that's gonna be at the next level too. You got to be responsible for each other and yourself. So they are involved. We do a Christmas holiday party, we do an end of the year party where then we get to socialize and all that. And then, if I might need help or, we need something or have an idea, and maybe we'll talk to a few of the parents and then get their insight. So they are involved. But
How do you manage parents? Because if there's a parent that's kid's not playing, his son's not playing,
we don't talk about playing time.
no,
No.
you have a rule, or it's just something you don't do.
No. Respectfully, yeah, it's a rule. It's different.
Why is I think it's important. Why is that a rule? Like why wouldn't a parent come and complain about playing time?
Because I really feel like it's unrealistic. At the college level, are you gonna go and complain to a coach about playing time? So that's why we're preparing.
So you're trying
them.
to prepare the.
We're preparing them for the next level. Like, so our JV program is different. We encourage everybody to play. We encourage everybody to get a lot of minutes. Now, if our JV coach decides not to, that's up to them. But respectfully, it's our decision. And then at the same time, we don't know what. A lot of the times, the parents don't know what's happening. Maybe at school, or if there was a off the field issue. So it's just I think it's preparing them though also, because again, I grew up where my parents never ever talk to a coach about playing time. So for me, it's like, that's the coach's decision. Have the kid come and ask, not the parent. So essentially that's what we've kind of built now. Like, we don't have any conversations with parents about playing time at all. Now, if it's a conversation about recruiting, a conversation about something else, by all means, doors open. But
How would you describe being a high school soccer coach? Like, what's your day-to-day look like?
Get in, answer emails. During season it's different, but we're often not a one-man show, but you got to do the laundry, you got to set up transportation if we're traveling that day, set up hotels, pregame meals. It's a lot some days, but
So what motivates you? Like, why do you love your job? What motivates you?
If I can teach, or how we said, if I can have a kid come back and tell me, like, man, you changed my life, or I learned so much from you, I won. And I think it's like that, changing a life, changing a person.
And how can you change a life through high school soccer?
There's tons of different ways, but I just really embracing the sacrifice and the reward, how rewarding it is when everyone is committed, everybody's accountable, everybody sacrifices, and then to win that final goal, which like what happened this year. I have a conversation with all of them, and I ask them, is that the best feeling of your life? And they're like, best feeling I've ever had in my life. And it's like, to watch that, like, you can look at pictures and it's like, man, like, that's really rewarding. That's
what's next for you in terms of your career? Like, are you comfortable where you're at, where you want to be there for the rest of your life? Do you see yourself doing other things? Like, you win a state championship, then what's next?
My goal coming in always was to bring back a state championship. and I'm very honest with this question when it comes to, parents, players, everybody. When I started coaching, this is where I wanted to be. This is where my coaching career, honestly, this is where it ends. Is at Columbus. My goals, I have, business goals, entrepreneurship type of ideas that I feel very comfortable now, leading a team and to success, where I feel very comfortable starting now. So I mean, I'm not saying it's gonna happen, next year or the year after that, but where I'm at, like as coaching wise, this is it.
So why would you not want to build on going to a different program, or the college level, or the professional level, or an MLS level? Like, because people might be like, yeah, but you completed it, like you did it. Like, why don't you want to do more?
It's man, it's taxing. It's a lot. It's a lot on us. I mean, you've done it. Like, it's a grind. It's a grind. I just feel like there's other things in my life that I want to accomplish. For me, the biggest one in coaching was, like I said, I wanted to bring a state title back to the
But
school.
why don't you want more?
That I got.
Why don't you want more?
In coaching?
Because you feel like you hit the goal.
I feel like I hit my coaching goal, yeah. I mean, and where the game is going and where it's changing, I mean, don't get me wrong. I could be saying this and something could come up tomorrow and maybe it's a different story. But
you're content.
Yeah, I'm very content right now. Very content. Like you said, I mean, it's managing.
So, but how do you stay motivated after you're content? Because there's the flip side of it where, like, you get comfortable and where you think you've achieved what you needed to achieve, and you're like, okay, like next year maybe we're good, like take the foot off the gas. Like, what keeps fueling you as a coach?
It's funny. I want to say, like, probably a week after we won, I'm walking up to my office, 6 a.m., 6:20, whatever it was. And there's like a group of 5 juniors who now are going into their senior year, and they're on the gym, working out, preparing for next year. It hasn't even been a week, and they're already by themselves. For me, that's like, gives me goosebumps, okay, that's my motive. Like, I'm ready, And even on the bus on the way home, me and the coaching staff were talking already about next year. So it's like, I mean, coaching's like that though. It's like it's an addiction. Yeah. It's an addiction. But just like the whole process, man, every team's different. That's what's so addicting. Is like every team's different and trying to figure out what works and what doesn't. Yeah, like yeah. I really, really, really enjoy that.
So this is interesting because a big piece of my message is that football gives you so much more than just playing, like problem solving, being part of a team, managing, fixing problems, entrepreneurship, public speaking, things that you wouldn't really think just from being on a pitch and kicking a ball around. So like, what's football given you? What's the biggest thing that football's given you, or what are you most grateful for?
Oh man, I think it's given me life, bro. Like, I mean, you look at it. I had this conversation today with a kid. I'm like, look right there. Like, I'm in my friends' weddings who, have kids now, who their kids come to our games, and it's all through the game. My best friends in life are from this game. Even though we don't play anymore, there's still somehow, some way, every person that I'm very connected to is from this game. It's very weird, but it's just about building those connections. But
there's the opposite side where you were a shit teammate or you were a bad person. So like, why did it give you good relationships? Because I'm sure that you have teammates that you don't like, that you thought were his dickhead. Maybe he's miserable now, or he's not in a good as place as you are. So like, how do you? Like, in 20 years, you want to look back and be like, oh, I was a good teammate, I was a good person. So, like, how do you build these good relationships in soccer?
I think it's about learning about people. Because, I mean, there's one exercise I did with a team where it's like, I asked them all, where are you from? Like, where's your background? and we wrote down all the different countries and areas the boys were from. And I kind of stopped once we had everything. I was like, look at all this, you know. We're all from different places, but we're trying to accomplish the same goal. And some of the kids still talk about that, where it's, you know, you have these different people from all different areas, you know, and everybody has a different life, you know. We don't know how somebody's life is at home. But to come together and, you know, try and accomplish a goal with each other and you learning about these people, that to me is what, you know, it's about, where you build those relationships for sure.
What does a relation, because I think like networking and relationships is quite a broad term, and I think that people get a bit overwhelmed when you talk about relationships. Like I'm saying about, hey, you need to build relationships. They're like, yeah, what does that mean? Like just say hello and say what's up. Like what's your definition of a good relationship, or like how to build relationships?
Support, you know. I think you know, one of my pet peeves, I guess, is like, you know, when you meet somebody and you might, you know, talk to them here and there, and then maybe when they need something, like a field or, you know,
like, hey, what's going on?
Yeah, hey, how are you? You know, and it's like, come on, man. Like, you know, when I think a good relationship happens, it's when, okay, how can we build together? How can we help
each
one
other
another?
out.
And at the same time doing that with integrity and not, you know, kind of backdooring somebody, you know what I mean? And I mean, my assistant Marcelo, who, I mean, we've known each other forever. I noticed that really quick, is like, you know, we align on the same a lot of the same values, and just kind of now building a team where everybody aligns on the same values. And that's where I'm like, okay, these are good relationships, you know. And a lot of my friends are like that too. I thought about it the other day, you know, a lot of my friends, both parents are still together. I didn't even think about it, but it's like, that's crazy. That's crazy to think about, but it's just kind of like, I don't know, they like life gravitating us together. I don't know.
How do you make sure that soccer is not transactional? Like, because I feel like there's the like high school soccer is all like you're part of a team and you're playing for your school and it's great. And then you get to college and it's like transactional about scholarship budgets and stuff. And then you get to pro soccer and it's ruthless because you're on a contract and you're paid and you're like a piece of meat. Like, how do you ensure that soccer is not like transactional?
That's tough. I mean, especially in this country, you know.
Yeah.
But I mean, again, I'm lucky for us, you know, we fundraise and we try and, you know, we try and take as much stress and you know, means, you know, where families have to pay for stuff out of the equation. You know, travel's covered, food's covered, all of that is covered. So rather than other places where, okay, you have to pay for hotels, you have to pay for this, you have to pay for that. I try and take that out of the equation. Now, it's different in every, you know, at every level. So, I mean, it's hard because, I mean, I know overseas is at the youth level, it's not like that, right? You know, everybody's playing. If you're good enough, you're playing for free. You have, right, free school, free room and board, free everything. Why can't we be like that? You know what I mean? So it's I don't know. I feel
how do you feel about your players leaving to go to like MLS Next or ECNL or other clubs?
It's their decision. Their decision. At the end of the day, you know, you can't, you know, force anybody to do something they don't want. In my opinion, you know, I think, you know, Inter Miami obviously is where every South Florida kid wants to be at. I agree. Now, if they decide they want to play somewhere else, totally up to them. I'm fine with it.
You'll be good. You have
yeah. We want guys that want to play and kind of play for the community of the school. That's why for me, I love coaching here, is because it's like you're playing for something more. You're playing for something more.
What would you say to a player that was like, "Hey, coach, I've decided to go and play MLS Next because I think it's going to be better for my college recruiting."
Yeah, if that's what they think, fine. And it's happened. It's happened.
Do you disagree though?
Not necessarily. I have, my pros and cons. I MLS Next for sure. They have better tournaments where it's easier for coaches to come and look 1,000%. I'm like, we can't have colleges going every high school game. I totally agree. Now the recruiting process, is a coach going to come straight up to a kid and be like, "Oh, here you go, here's a scholarship"? Probably not. I still believe there is some type of a process vetted, even if you're playing MLS Next. But I mean, I think either. I think if you play at a high level at that age, you could get recruited no matter what. It just depends on the school and where you're willing to go. So.
Absolutely, I agree with that. And Cam, just to finish off, for a player that's listening to this that's not really sure like what they want to do, they've listened to this episode and they might be thinking like, wow, like coaches really care a lot about me, and the whole part of a coach's job is to kind of obviously set us up for the game, but also to manage players. I need to be likable and I need to get liked by my coach, and this is all about relationships and being successful as a person. What would you say is your biggest piece of advice to like the younger generation of soccer players that want to play at a higher level and be good people? Like, what advice do you give to like your team to be successful in life?
Yeah, I would say, it's less about the game than what you think. It's 1,000% more about the people. Tons of college coaches, including, and myself, you always ask about the family. How do you treat your mom? How do you treat your dad? How do you treat your teacher? How do you treat your sibling? That is by far, I think the biggest thing is how you treat people, and you treat people good. I think good things are gonna happen. It's vice versa, coach to player.
And what's your biggest piece of advice to other coaches out there who are thinking, because there'll also be people listening to this that are like, I'm thinking about coaching. I wonder what it's like to be a good coach, and I wonder what a coach would give me as some advice before getting into coaching. So for a player that's like 18, 19 that wants to be a coach, what advice do you give how to be a successful coach?
I just care. It's about the kids. It's about the kids. It's not about me, you, anybody. It's about them. How do you set them up for success? And it's not about wins or losses. That's something I learned. It's never about wins or losses when you're talking about development. It's about them. Can they play this position? Can they play that position? Basic life necessities. Little things like that, I think, is the biggest thing about coaching. 1,000%.
Love that, Cam. Thank you so much for the episode. That was great,
man. Yeah.
I learned a lot. That was amazing, guys. We'll tag the Columbus Instagram, and if there's any questions you have for Cam or anything you learned, pop him a message. But that was awesome, Cam. Thank you so much.
Good. No problem. Yeah.
Thank you, Cam. I appreciate you. That was awesome.
Of course. Yeah.